Thank you all for coming and searching so hard to find this room. So this talk, so I have a friend named Ray, and he writes the blog Hella Secure. And we were on the phone one day, and he had started a new job. And basically, he was talking to a developer, and the developer was so timid. And the developer just seemed so afraid of him. One day, he, like partway through the conversation, he just said, "Who hurt you? What happened that?" And they basically said the previous person that ran AppSec would yell at people, was really aggressive, just told them how stupid they were all the time. He's like, "That's done. No, like, you're my customer. Like, I'm here to serve you. It's my job to help you do your job securely." And him and I were talking about it, and I was like, you need to earn their trust all over again. And as I've switched jobs throughout AppSec, I'd come in, and I kid you not, like, I would get this similar approach where they're like, she's from security, she's got a smile, but like, it's like a shark smile, I'm in trouble. Like, they've had these bad experiences. And I have this friend named Nicole who works at Google, and she said whenever she meets with a new team, she's like, "Hey, I'm Nikki, I'm from security, I come in peace." And every time people laugh because not all of them do. And so basically me and my friend Ray, we just kept talking, and I was like, I just went on and on and on about it. He's like, "You have to write a talk now, you know that." I'm like, "Why do I always have to do that?" He's like, "'Cause I have to blog. It's your fault. You're the talker, I'm the writer." So here I am. And so I wanted to talk about, so what are we gonna talk about today? I wanted to talk about all these places where there's no buy-in from the rest of IT for your awesome security things. Because if we want like our awesome security ideas to become realities, we need people to buy into them. It goes better if everyone gets on the train instead of we drag them along the ground behind us, right? And I wanted to talk about broken trust and especially how to fix that. And so usually I do like more technical discussions, but I submitted this sort of like on a whim, and OWASP said yes, and I'm like, all right. So I get to talk about culture, which usually I don't get to do. So how to become a gardener, learn web app security, and then work in AppSec, burn out, become a gardener. It worked for me. I own a farm now. But more importantly, okay, so who am I? So I'm Tanya, and as our amazing proctor told you, I do a bunch of stuff. I work at SumGrep. So my second book is now officially for sale, and it comes out February 5th. Yes, Secure Coding for Alice and Bob. Alice goes on a date with a pen tester, and she dumps him because he's not ethical. So there's lots of stories in there. I've done this stuff a long time, and hopefully you're like, she seems all right. So that's the boring part of the talk. So I want to talk about this. I want to talk about why some organizations don't have buy-in and some do. And I want to talk about like a lot of reasons. And this talk can be interactive if you want. So why do some of you feel that there's no buy-in at some orgs? Like, what might be one of the reasons? Is anyone feeling brave and wants to answer?
Because they hear so much constant chatter,
Mm-hmm.
It's like crying, so they just give up.
Because they hear so much chatter over and over, it feels like they're crying wolf, him and then you.
Sometimes there's sharks from the business side that have other demands than security.
Sometimes there's sharks from the business side that have other demands than security.
Sometimes, okay, this is going to sound a little bit cynical, but because they don't get, so when the team doesn't get enough resources, people see that they don't have enough resources and they're like, you can't help us.
Okay, so sometimes there's not enough people on the security team to respond in like a reasonable amount of time, so they stop asking. Is that a good summary? Okay, you, then you, then you.
They don't feel empowered to make decisions and
Yes.
make things right.
They don't feel empowered to make decisions. Maybe they don't feel heard. Oh, so good.
They don't understand.
They don't understand. They don't understand what we need from them. That's really good.
So I spent 20 years programming, and I've been doing 7 years cybersecurity specifically in verification security. So in my previous 20 years, there's never been budget for security. In a development job, there's never been a budget for security, anything at all.
I feel like you just like threw the gauntlet down. So answer, in 27 or 28 years of career, there's never been budget for developers for security.
Really good. I was going to say, security is a cost.
Security is a cost center. Yep. Okay. So one more, and then I have.
As a previous developer, good security takes a lot of extra steps off.
Good security takes a lot of extra steps. They aren't necessarily in the project schedule. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you all have such good answers. So I have some thoughts. Sometimes there's a lack of awareness. They don't understand what we want. So then they're not doing it because they don't always know what we want. That's one of the reasons. Sometimes they're like, oh, it's so inconvenient. Security's in the way. I need to get these 12 things done by Friday, and security just plunked this huge thing on top that I was not planning for, and now I'm a stress ball. So this one's the most obvious one, like budget, time constraints. We all, like every single person feels this, period, especially with the economy, just generally right now. But what about lack of support from senior management? If management doesn't care, why do I care? Right? I've seen it where devs are like, yeah, I want to fix that, Tanya, but my boss keeps putting it to the bottom of the priority list every week, so I just don't do it. I have to do what my boss says, which is reasonable. Resistance to change. This is usually like a personality thing. Sometimes it's a culture thing, where it's just like, we've always done it this way. I'm like, yes, and it's always sucked. Why would you? That's not a reason to keep doing it. Not understanding the value that security creates. Like you said, security is a cost center, but it's also like a prevention center. It's also like, we'll pay $20,000 now to do all these things so we don't have a breach that costs $200,000 later. And so our customers don't have their data breached and our reputation isn't hurt. Like there's lack of trust. This is obviously the one I want to talk about the most. But if we've been burned by security over and over, so in Dwayne's talk, he was saying, I want to move from the department of no to the department of how. And I was like, oh, I love that. I'm so stealing that. That's brilliant. Yeah, how can we get this done? Because you can still do it. Like you can still get the thing done you're trying to do, but let's find a more secure path to get there, right? So I want to talk about this. Also, insufficient communication and engagement. If we don't speak to the devs, and especially if we don't speak their language, like how are they gonna know what we want? Like how can they buy in if we don't even talk to them? And I have worked many, many places where the AppSec team doesn't know the name of a single dev. And I'm like, then what have you been doing? Those are the people you should be chilling with pretty much all the time. And competing priorities. So all of us feel this, right? All of us feel that. I can't really fix that one, but we could talk about trust. So I want to ask everyone again, why does it matter if there's no buy-in, or why does it matter if there's broken trust? Does anyone want to share some thoughts on this? Sam's smiling, this evil smile. Have you never dealt with this before, Sam? He says he deals with it all the time.
Everyone's thinking about themselves, so all they know is what they want, and they've never crossed that bridge to know what's in it for them.
Oh, I love that. He said everyone's in it for themselves, and no one's crossed that bridge before, so they don't know what it's like. That's really good. I like that.
You just don't get anything done. If you don't really get buy-in from devs, then it's not going to get done.
Okay, so this is the perfect answer.
Fight it all the time.
If you don't get any buy-in from the developers, you don't get anything done. Or you do, and it hurts so bad. Okay, there, and then over. Were you putting your hand up? No? Okay.
Well, what is broken trust? It's a perception of risk. And we as all human beings, we are risk averse. So if there's broken trust, you want to avoid that risk at the very time.
Oh, that's worded so well. I'm just going to repeat it for the camera. So if you have broken trust, that's a risk. And why on earth would I walk back into that risk where I've already been burned before? I'm probably butchering it compared to how you said it. I felt like you said it better. That was really good. Maybe I should get you to comment on things more. Thank you. So I compiled a few things. So our security's not as good, right? If we have broken trust, they're not telling us when they see things. They're not gonna go the extra mile, stay late, fix that bug. They're not going to strive ever to do more if they have no trust for us, if they're not buying into any of this. There's a lack of innovation. So if we can't even talk to the security team, how can we innovate on security? Like I have found that once I build some trust and I get to know some people, then we talk, we'll have like coffee together or whatever. And then at some point they're like, well, what if we did this? I'm like, that's way smarter than the plan I had. Can I steal that? And then we put our minds together and we make a much better plan. We innovate more. And so obviously if IT companies aren't innovating, that's problematic, right? Less collaboration and missed opportunities, which I feel are sort of like I put them on the same slide because they're all interconnected. Like if we're not on speaking terms, or if we talk to each other but we're guarded the whole time, right? Like it's just not gonna go well. A defensive team culture. So I have seen this to be very problematic. So I used to work somewhere that will remain unnamed, and I remember we had this boss, and he's like, let's brainstorm. And so then someone said an idea, and he's like, that's stupid. And then he's like, what else? And then someone else said something, and he's like, that's dumb. And so then he's like, what else? And no one said anything. And then he's like, why is no one saying anything? I'm like, because every time we say something, he tells us how stupid we are. It's weird. Your idea of brainstorming is very different than mine. And so he's like, well, I didn't mean it like that. I'm like, how did you mean it? And so that meeting was over. I don't work there now. But like, how can you have a good brainstorming session? How can you like work together as a team if you like, oh my gosh. A siloed approach. So I've seen this, oh, yeah?
Is there like a special price for attention to details?
Yeah, my slides were made by AI and they're crazy. People have like 3 arms and like 12 fingers. And I was thinking of actually having it circle how silly it is. So actually, please spot the mistakes. Yeah.
On that person on the right.
Look at his hand, how it's going the wrong way. Good job. There's more though. There's more that's even worse. So keep your eyes out for my terrible slides. I know, AI is really bad at arms and fingers. And so there's a lot of people with more than one arm, wait for it. Okay, so this one's okay, but no, I got them all AI generated because like I was in a hurry. So if we are working separately as teams, we're not gonna do as good of a job. Like just when it comes to ideas of how to do something well, if you get no input from anyone, you get 0 feedback, it's usually not great, your first shot at it. And so when we silo security and then the rest of IT, or even worse, like here's security, there's dev, there's ops, there's help desk, we don't talk, that's not a problem, it's a problem. A negative perception of security. So broken trust creates a negative perception. And maybe it's a true perception, like maybe it's accurate, right? Like if you've had bad experiences over and over. When I was so my second last job as a dev, okay, not my proudest moment, okay? We're in this Office 2.0 where we all have cubicles that just go to here because they thought that would help us work and not make us crazy. And I saw the head of security come and I did that. and my boss just happened to be exiting his cubicle and he looks at me and he's like, Janca. And I'm like, I'm so busted. And he's like, get up, go see him, stop hiding. I'm like, I could have been in the ladies' room the whole time hiding. Attrition. So this is a thing we don't think about a lot, but if we are So if we're the security, you know, like when you pet a cat backwards, you're not technically hurting it, but you are annoying it so much, and it wants to do anything to get away from you, right? If we are that security team where we pet the cat backwards all day long, I have mini humans at home, some people call them children, and like one of them, he used to just pet cats backwards so confidently when he was littler, and he'd be like, I love it, and the cat's like, rah! That can lead to attrition. People will leave if security's awful. Like, will they leave right away? No, it'll take months of them being less and less happy and less productive and taking more days off, avoiding meetings with you, perhaps hiding in the ladies' room, whatever they do. And like, we don't want to lose. So I'm just like, give me a picture of a really smart software developer. This is what I got. We don't want to lose this guy, right? We don't want to lose the rest of the people. We don't want to lose anyone because they're just so frustrated about working with us. And so I want to talk about how we can build trust. Does anyone have, let me see how much time I have left. I'm doing great. Does anyone have an idea of how we could build trust?
Find one of them that gets it and hire them onto your team.
Ooh, find a developer that gets security and hire them onto your team. Okay, so that guy for Prez. Jeff.
Listen to your developers.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Listen to them. Way at the back corner, if you say it, I'll just repeat it.
Always come in with solutions. When you're identifying vulnerabilities and delivering bad news, so just have to start with what to do about it.
Oh my gosh, so show up with solutions. So don't come with a problem only, come with a suggested solution of how we can fix the problem. So there's a lot of risk in the way you're planning on doing this, but if we do it like this, it will reduce the risk a lot. Can we try this instead? I love that.
So, like a lot of my meetings with the developers, I start with saying that you are my customer, and I'm here to help.
Yes. Okay, so you are my customer, I am here to help. Adopting that as like a mantra and an attitude, yes.
I would say also that whenever you, implement something new in their work, ask them for the feedback and then come back to them what happened with their feedback.
Yes.
I think the second part of this is the most important one, right? So you guys tell us this, we have changes in this, thank you. Because then they feel heard, and they feel made better, and they also contribute, so it's going to go much better.
Yes. So ask for feedback, and then this is the crazy part. Listen to it and actually take action. And then when you've taken the action, loop back around and close the loop and tell them what you did with it. That's actually the most important part. So we held a mentoring event this morning, Meet the Mentor, and the most important part of having a mentor to get them to keep being your mentor is, so they give you advice, you go do the thing, tell them how it went, close the loop. Yes, I went and had coffee with that person and it was great. Or I went and had coffee with that person and I don't think I'm a good fit for that job. Is there anyone else I should meet? Thank you for introducing me.
Yeah, so in addition to what he said about providing solutions, one thing that I found really helped me a lot was to do security architectural reviews before the development starts, because you find a lot of potential issues before the development even starts. Nobody wants to hear all the issues when they've finished their last line of code.
Yes. So shifting security left, what? Starting security earlier instead of telling them how wrong they are at the end, actually helping them? Oh my gosh, this guy's onto something.
We brought developers in to actually help us tune tools and
Yes. Inviting developers with you while you're tuning tools to get their feedback. So it's tuned the way they like it, not just the way we like it. I love it. Okay, I have some thoughts too. Constant communication. Default to sharing unless it's sensitive. So tell them this went well or that didn't go well. I run, so this is not a security example, but I run the SumGrep Academy and I was like, oh my gosh, my conversion rates are so low. All the courses are free. Why is no one signing up? And then I figured out, I hadn't really configured all the things the best way I could. So I told everyone, then I asked everyone for ideas, and then I implemented them. And then I just literally a few days ago was like, hey, we implemented them and look at this improvement. Thank you everyone for your ideas. It's nuts, just sharing. Another thing would be active listening. So this is a skill that not everyone has. So I used to be a dev, and then I briefly thought I wanted to be a boss. I know. He has more than one hand, so what? Don't judge just because he has multiple arms coming out of his stomach.
Productivity.
Thank you. Well, so I was gonna remove them, and then I was like, actually, I think it's fun. But yes, okay. But the communication skills are actually a skill. So I was a dev, and I don't want to sound too hateful on myself, but I was not really good at communicating. I was extremely forward, extremely blunt. I'd be so direct that I would, not on purpose, but I'd make people uncomfortable. I would just say the thing. I was very, I used to work with a lot of Israelis. I'm like, oh, this is so great, I fit right in. Because they just say what they think. I'm like, oh, yes. But I live in Canada where we like to dance around things for at least 30 minutes before we tell you what we want. And so I had to learn how to dance around. So I had to actually take communication classes. And I'm a way better communicator now. And so it might seem weird, to send the security team on communication courses, but you will get better results. Yeah.
So in developers defense, when I was on the, thank you so much. So in developers defense, when I was on the hiring panels, I never had questions about their public speaking skills. That's not what they are hired for. So yeah, the developers are known for have troubles with communication. They're good at something else.
Yes, but I mean that we need to work on our communication skills. I had to work on my communication skills if I wanted to be a manager. I had to. And I did, and I got better, and I'm not perfect, I'm still working on it, but it sounds weird, but actually sending your team on communication skills, it really makes a huge difference. Transparency and accountability. So transparency is telling people even when the news is bad. It's we screwed this up, here's what happened, and then here's the root cause, and here's what we're gonna do about it. And then accountability. We shouldn't be making the same mistake over and over. It's totally fine to make a mistake once, but 4 times, not so much, right? And so holding ourselves accountable, not just holding other teams accountable. So this slide has a lot going on. So collaboration and teamwork. So this one I feel is a winner, and we all try to do it. But do we actually do it? Do we actually collaborate with the developers on things? I remember I went to go buy a stack analysis tool before I started working where I work, because that's the only stack analysis tool now in my life. But I went to go buy one, and I was looking at a bunch, and I was okay, so I'm kind of thinking this one. And so I went and I brought the devs with me, and we played with it together. And I remember at the end of the hour, one of them's so, I'm so, and he's can we keep it? And I was win, I just won the whole internet. Because if they want to keep it, this is the best. And so my boss was that was really good collaboration. I was I just wanted to make sure they didn't hate it, because then they won't use it. But it turned out I was being very well behaved. Recognition and appreciation. So security is really awesome at pointing out errors, but we are not great at pointing out good work. So this is a thing I try hard to do. I try really hard, and I do it in all the things, where I work now. I'll write another manager and be FYI, this person did this, and it was great. And I know that you already think they're great, but sometimes it helps to hear another director thinks that they're totally awesome. So, kudos to you for a really good hire. That person's wonderful. What if we did that for security work? Oh, our pen tester had to struggle to find anything. Awesome. Also, there's a security company here that has donuts. Yeah, bring donuts. Carbs are a win. Carbs and sugar. Build relationships. I feel we should know the names of some of the developers. We should know them. We don't have to be their best friends, but we should have a relationship where, so sometimes I'll say to people, okay, so find a dev that likes you and then do this. They all know immediately a whole bunch of people that are their person, right? We should be building relationships all the time, which as a dev, I never thought of doing. And then empowerment. If you can do self-service, If you can show them how, so they're like, go away, Tanya, I've got this. That's the best. Whenever I train a new employee, like after a few weeks, they're like, so I'm like, good, I've got this. I'm like, yes, winning. And then they just become independent. And then before I know, they're just like, I'm like, do whatever you want, you got this. That's the best. We want the devs to feel like that. Like they can just go do it because we've enabled them and empowered them and they feel self-sufficient. Conflict resolution. We should be able to talk about things. Ironically, I just had to do a workplace violence course, which since I work remotely, I'm like, I'm just gonna attack myself. But workplace violence is real, but just because I work remotely, I found it a little humorous because I was like, how would I be violent just with me? But that's okay. But we should have a way to resolve conflict, right? We should have hopefully an informal way where we can bring things up where we're having like some friction and we could try to work it out before it turns into like a big thing, right? And if we can bring things up, talk it out, work it out before it's a big thing, then there's less of everything that's bad. Consistency. So this is a thing that almost every AppSec person I know struggles with is consistency. We're like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a threat model for every new app. And then an incident happens and we're gonna have threat models for no apps for a year. So whatever you can do to set expectations that are, maybe be a bit more conservative so that we can be consistent. So like I became a stepmom over COVID, and before that I was like, ooh, children, gross. But then I met some and I fell in love with them. It's terrible. Consistency is really important for them, and it sounds hilarious, but as I learn more about parenting, I'm like, it turns out everyone likes consistency. It turns out everyone likes these things, not just children. And so the more you can be consistent with your program, consistent with your level of communication, like it builds trust a lot. Okay, so strategies for getting buy-in. And I'm like looking at time, I'm like, how am I doing on time? I'm doing like kind of okay. I'm gonna tell you the answers to this one because I wanna get to the last one. So we want to get buy-in for our security programs. We want this. And so I'm gonna be super biased here. I think training and education is the first thing. And since I've dedicated a big part of my career to this, it sounds like I'm biased, but I started dedicating my career to this because I saw such huge changes. Like you come in, you give training, and then I almost always get an email like 1-2 months later. Since you came, we started doing threat modeling. Now we do this. We went and bought that. Now we're doing this. And it's like you light a fire because you get everyone so excited about the thing. So it's not just about the day that you do it. It's about like this like starting up of changing a thing and having people kind of become infected with this idea that security might be good. And so and education and awareness can be your AppSec team doing a lunch and learn, and then someone from a different part of the security team doing a little workshop. It doesn't have to be like you pay for an expensive system or an expensive trainer. Like you can do this stuff in-house and still do a good job. And I have lots of ideas of how to do it on the cheap if you want to talk after. Clear deliverables. I don't know why they're pushing their boxes together. They don't know how to deliver packages at all. But if we are very clear and tell everyone what we're doing, so I do this a lot where I'm like, my team's doing this, my team's doing that, my team's doing this, my team's working on that. And I sound like a broken record, but I do it because then everyone always knows what I'm doing. No one ever needs to ask because I'm always like, blah, blah, blah. If the security team does that, they're like, we're concerned about secrets. We want to find secrets in everyone's code. Like we're getting a secret scanning tool. Oh, we've started scanning. Like we're going to reach out to you. We're going to manage our secrets like this. You just keep saying it, then people do it. Continuously measure and communicate progress. So what I just said, so we're concerned about secrets, next. We're getting a secret scanning tool, next. We're getting a secret management tool, next. So you tell them as you are doing it. You show them progress. It sounds weird, but that helps build momentum for everything. I really like to try to show a return on investment by providing evidence and data. Data and stories. So I'll be like, oh, the security champion program, this, and this. And like I'll have data points. But then I'll say, also one of the security champions reported this to me and we prevented a security incident. And another security champion told me they want to work in AppSec someday now. And the story is the thing everyone will remember, but the metrics and data get like a big check mark from C-level people. If they have a C in their title, they're like, yeah, data. Establishing urgency. So I don't want to, so no fear, uncertainty, and doubt, but sometimes you have to explain, I need this done by then, and you need to explain why. Right? Like, I don't want to find my secrets in 2 years from now after they're on the dark web. I want to find them before they're on the dark web. And so so things that are urgent, being able to communicate effectively that they're urgent. I don't mean scare the pants off of everyone in every meeting, just to be clear. Okay, and then quick wins. If you can have tiny little wins, and I mentioned secrets because this is like one of the things, like when I go consult somewhere, I immediately find all the secrets and rotate them and fix that because that's terrible. And then I find wherever their top 3 terrible things they're doing are, and I educate on those, and then I measure it going down. And then I'm like, hey, I want to renew my contract? And they're like, yeah. So quick wins, you show that, and that like really helps cement that your program's working, and then you can get buy-in for bigger, slower, but bigger value things, but that take longer and might cost more. Engaging stakeholders, especially early, telling everyone, like, and getting feedback and stuff. So sometimes we forget to include help desk. Sometimes we forget to include QA. So remembering to try to tell everyone that needs to hear, we need support from the top. We just do. And then we already said collaboration and teamwork, but see how they're like all holding hands? I thought that might be good. Also, like, where's this arm coming from? Where? Hey, don't you have an arm that comes out of your ribs? Come on. Okay, so strategies for breaking trust. This is really important in losing buy-in. So these are things you want to watch out for that you might just watch out, try not to do them. Yeah, I put a dragon because I like dragons, that's it. So a lack of transparency. So if we're hiding things, we're not telling people. So my team had an error with one of our computer systems and we missed something important. You know what we did? We talked about it. And it was like, I don't want to admit that my team made a mistake, but we talked about it. And then we're like, we should do a postmortem and analyze the things so that we don't lose any data ever again. Just to be clear, it wasn't customer data, it was my team's data, but it still sucked. And so we had transparency and we talked about it. And we talked about it so that we will never do that again. Consistency. So if we are not consistent, if we're like, we're gonna have a lunch and learn every month, and we have 2 in a row, and then we don't meet for 8 months, and then we're like, we're gonna have a lunch and learn every month because we're starting, no one's gonna believe us because we already were wrong, right? So if you could bite off less, but be consistent, you will win more. Accountability. So if you are gonna go complain about a service level agreement not being met, I always first, so I'm like, I'm gonna send the worst email. I'm upset. And then I'm like, do I owe them a bunch of emails? Did I do the thing I said I would do? And I go through and then usually I'm like, I'm gonna eat those words. So often I'm like, they never responded. And I'm like, oh, it's in my inbox and I suck. So I try to look at myself first before I ever go give other people crap. So I'm like, did I do every single thing I could do? I hold myself accountable first. And alignment. So does your security program complement what the business is doing? Does your security program complement what the developers are trying to do? If they're all trying to centralize their code to the same place, are you on board that train? Because we want to be along for the ride of what they're doing. A lack of communication. So obviously, if we don't tell them what's going on, that's not gonna help anything that we wanna do. Engagement. So actually getting them involved in parts of it where appropriate. So we don't wanna make them come to every meeting because they have lives and things to do, but if we can engage them in some of the things, that will help a lot. 10 minutes. We wanna give training and we wanna do support. Support can mean just answering an email. Just actually getting back to people. That's the hardest part of AppSec because there's so many people that need your advice. And the more you build trust, the more they're willing to talk to you and the less time you'll have But it sounds weird, but that's like the best problem ever, when they all want to talk to you and they all want your time, because then I make a folder of all the things I can't get back to, and I tell my boss, like, wow, it's almost like there's enough for another AppSec engineer or something, right? 2 more. Ignoring feedback. This, oh, yeah?
Quick question, on the previous slide, why she has 6 fingers?
Because she's amazing. Also, you're amazing. If we ignore feedback this is like poison. This is like adding poison to everything. If they tell us there's a problem, like, hey, you rolled out that new thing and it's like really not working for us, you want to book a meeting to ask, like, be like, tell me. And if there's not enough time, booking a meeting to dive down the rabbit hole together. Like, ignoring feedback. Of all the things in this presentation, please don't do this. Unusable security. I was like, draw me someone that's really angry about security. And that is what I got. I don't know how many fingers he has, though. And failure to evolve. So if your AppSec program is not modern at all, if your program, like, you're not keeping track, especially if, like, you're not keeping pace with the developers, so they're like, serverless, IoT, AI, ML, Bitcoin, but they're doing that, and you're not going along for the ride, you'll be left behind, right? So failure for us to evolve our security program, again, it's just a recipe for disaster. And so with that, I want to conclude. So I'm going to do a conclusion, then I'm going to give you a bunch of free resources, so you might want to get your phones out, but it's up to you. So without buy-in from devs, we just cannot win. We just cannot. If we need trust and buy-in, or we're going to just swim upstream every single day. Our job's going to be hard. We're not going to have good days. And lastly, it is worth the effort to build good relationships, even if sometimes it's kind of hard. So at first, like, I'll join an organization and, like, you know, everyone's angry at each other and it's not going well. But I remember 6 months in having a meeting with the devs, and, like, I'd totally established truth. And one of them was like, do you want to really mess with your boss? And I'm like, obviously I do. He's like, when we come out, let's have a group hug right in front of her office. And her jaw, like, hit the ground. When I joined, they were emailing each other with the F word, with clients CC'd and managers CC'd. Yeah, it was like really, and then we did this group hug, and my boss was just like, I know, it was awesome. It was so worth it. Okay, so I have some resources for you. So SumGraph Academy, everything in here is free. There's no, you don't have to pay anything ever. So there's secure coding, there's functional programming, there's AppSec, there's obviously how to use SumGraph, but there's, like, a whole bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with our products that we just want to try to help. Oh, yes, okay, next slide. I wrote some books, and my new book's almost ready. I sent my last chapter in, and I've been working really hard. And so the new book is yellow and is for devs, and I cover all the things, and I'd love to talk to you about it after, and it's available February 5th, but you can buy it now on the internet. And me, I have a YouTube channel, and YouTube emailed me last week to tell me I have 5,000 subscribers, yay! I have a newsletter. Oh, this link doesn't work, sorry. I broke my DNS again, but the rest of it works. And so if you go to my website, you can, wherever. Anyway, I'm a nerd on the internet. I do this all day long. If you want to talk about AppSec or secure coding, I would love to. And I'm going to be here all day tomorrow and the thing tonight and all the stuff. And so I'm an extrovert, which means I love humans. So I would love to talk to you, and I mean it. And with that, I want to thank everyone so much. Thank you for your answers and your participation. Thank you. So I know that I asked you questions the whole time, so this is your chance to ask me questions.
Yeah, so we have about 5 minutes for questions. I would request everybody to raise your hand so I can give you the mic so that it can be recorded, the question, and then you can ask the question.
Okay, and then after, you can all grab stickers, and also I'll be in the hallway. So if you're like, I'm shy and I don't want to ask a question in front of everyone, that is okay, because I'll be out there.
So, wait for the microphone.
He's moving fast.
So with everybody being remote now, or if you're still remote, how do you build relationships with people that you don't necessarily have any reason to interact with on a daily basis? Like, for example, I'm the head of AppSec. I don't talk to the devs. My engineers do, but it's hard for me to build relationships when I don't have a reason to just reach out. It's hard to, I can't stop by their desk.
Okay, so that is a really, really great question. So the last place that I did AppSec, I was remote, and I was the only person from Canada, and almost everyone else lived in southern the United States or like across kind of the United States. And I was just really annoying and social with them. So I would go into their Slacks and drop dumb memes, and I would message and ask dumb questions. I'm trying to do this, but this is happening. Can anyone help me? And then someone would answer me, and I'd be like, I'm gonna do this. Can someone give me some feedback on this? And I just asked questions all the time. I also, so who here uses Slack? Okay, so most of you are lying. But there's this thing called Donut you can get where it matches people each month so that you have a virtual coffee and you chat. So you can set up kind of a fake excuse to meet people. And not all those meetings turn into anything. Some of them are just cool, we both play guitar. But a lot of them I find, I'm oh, now we're on the same project together. Now we're doing this together. And so making excuses to meet. And then also, this sounds silly, but having literally doing team building events. So the company that I work for, they're in California, and they had a Christmas party in California, and I was oh, I can't go. And they're oh no, there's a Christmas party for remote employees. So they shipped us all, so I'm gluten-free, so I made my own gluten-free thing, because I'm I can't eat any of your stuff. But they shipped everyone these cookie making kits, and then we all wore really ugly sweaters, and we all put our things, and then we had this wild instructor lady come and try to teach us how, mine was terrible, but we made these cookie things, and it was dumb, and we're giggling and laughing the whole time. And it sounds silly, but that was really bonding, and I talk to those people more now. So there's a lot of, but you have to be intentional, and it's work. And okay, so being extroverted helps. Do you want to add?
Could you do a virtual coffee hour, and you don't have to be terribly extroverted for that? You can just be present, introduce yourself. Hey, I just wanted to take a 15-minute to invite everybody to get to know me and maybe get to know you a little bit.
I also will join their meetings, and then at the end I'll be I'm doing this, blah, blah, blah. I'll join the dev all staff or the dev weekly whatever, and just find something to chime in about. And especially if there's a place where you do shout outs, make sure you do shout outs for them. So the place that I worked at, Southern United States, at the end of every big dev meeting, they'd be it's shout out time, and we'd always run out of time because everyone had something nice to say about someone else. And I was this is such a nice place to work.
Yeah, I don't really have anything. I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you so very much for all your help, because I go to every single talk at every single conference where you present and I go to. So thank you so much. I really appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you. Did you have something?
I believe this lady had the question.
Or add. So wait, she's just going to add. Tell me, and I'll repeat.
I just wanted to add to your, but then you have to be an introvert or an extrovert, and they're talking. So
introverts can still make friends. Introverts don't wander the whole world alone.
But I was going to add, find your resident extrovert on your team, and or adjacent to your team. Just find that person that is the extrovert and be yo, I need you. And use them.
Yes.
They will love it.
Yes.
They want you to be yes, I will use my powers for good. And they will love to be your extrovert ambassador.
Yes.
And help you meet the devs and help you. They will cold call your devs for you.
If you've ever read Malcolm Gladwell, he has this theory of the maven, the social maven that brings all the people together. Meet those people. Follow her advice. Okay, one more, and then I think we're at time, but I don't know.
Okay, apologies, we're out of time. I'm actually not an extrovert. However, I am the director, so I do have to bring the teams together, particularly when there was COVID. So I set up regular meetings, and I would invite different teams, so whether it was IT or network teams or cloud security, and then different dev teams. And each time I would I would contact someone ahead of time and say, can you speak at this and share stuff about what you're doing, what you're working on, and who you are, so that all of them could get involved, and they would bring their whole team every time because they were excited to do that, and just making sure you're reaching out and communicating with them. So even though I wasn't having to do the whole entire thing, which of course I will speak when I need to, but it didn't matter. Everyone got involved and they were all happy to do that. And same thing at the end, we would always ask, because the whole security team was on there, at the end, can you please share with us what we can do to help you? What are we not doing, and what would you like to see from us?
Okay, everyone does what she did. And sorry, but we just couldn't hear her. No, you're great.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you all for sharing. I really appreciate that. It took some bravery. Thank you.